I somehow managed to butt dial 911 and the call went through.
Oops. Cat teeth cleaning bills are double what I'm paying for mine. What a racket.
I've been researching patio furniture for the 8 months I've lived at my apartment, and my yard still bare.
Had a dream about my ex, who was also a mutant snake creature trying to kill me. I really got to cut back on those horror movies.
Yeah, have such a good day. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
What's shaking?
How's it going? How y'all doing?
There's a lot of you out there.
There sure are. It's like Romper Room. I see Nancy and Jenny and Sophia and Cole.
Cole? Where did that come from?
One of my neighbors was named Cole.
Oh, I remember that actually.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show called Have Such a Good Day. We're going to do our best to help you have one.
Yeah.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Heather.
Yeah.
And here we are, baking in the sun.
Same names we had for 47 previous episodes. It's episode 48, girlfriend. We're almost to 50.
Five. Yeah. It's pretty impressive, actually. I mean, really, like that is a, you know, no matter what kind of success you get from something like this, like we have done almost 50 episodes of content. Like we should be proud. That's pretty cool.
Well, and we should be, and we are. But you're right. It's a funny thing because you're like, okay, well, there's 52 weeks in a year. This is a weekly show, so it's been just under a year.
Yep.
Okay, the math all makes sense. But then you're like, wow, 50?
Every single week.
Every single week, yeah. We've never missed.
No, we haven't.
Never missed. We are if nothing if not consistent.
Yeah.
I'll get that right one of these days. But yeah, this is a show where we unpack a lot of absurdity of life. In fact, this week it's sort of weird, almost by accident. We're on a bit of an animal kick.
We are.
Heather and I, we kind of curate our stuff independently, and then we get everything together before it's time to record the show.
Sometimes there's connections. Sometimes there's like happenstance.
Yeah.
Like we have something that kind of relates to the other thing.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool.
But this day I dare I say it's a bit of an animal themed show. So whether you love animals or hate them, there's something for you here. But before we get into that, I wanted to mention, because I did mention at the top of the show, that I've got this patio furniture thing.
Yeah.
Now I've got a yard it's a super decent size, not huge. You know, my dog can't like run through the yard, but it definitely has room for like a nice picnic table, an umbrella, sort of like what we have here on your patio, Heather, and maybe a couple of lawn chairs if you wanted to lay out, or however you talk about sunbathing. And you know, I've got some errant plants, whatever. It's, you know, it's a decent size. And when I decided to rent my apartment, the landlord it was a big selling point, because I didn't have a yard at my old place. I had the beach, but that's, you know, it's not just yours, and it's not sort of fenced in and whatever. And I was like, it's gonna be so great. I haven't bought one thing for that yard. And I actually go back there a fair amount.
You do?
Like I have these like really janky chairs that you would maybe like put on the beach that are just, you know, kind of foldable. And depending on where the sun is during the day, because again, I don't have any umbrellas and there's not a lot of shade. Like in the morning, sometimes I'll go out there and just like look through Instagram for 10 minutes, drinking my coffee type thing.
You just stand? No, you sit on those chairs.
Yeah,
okay.
like, I mean, the chairs are comfortable, but it's not like really hanging out in the yard. I'm kind of just sitting there,
totally.
You know, and Otis sort of looks at me and is like, I don't know what to do, and so he'll just like lay down until I'm ready to go back inside. But it's and when I say the Amazon rabbit hole that I'm in, because it usually is Amazon, right? On our previous episode, I talked about the wire cutter, which is designed to help people like me who are crippled by choice. Like they just say, here's the patio furniture you should buy. We've tested them all. Yep. Here's the umbrella you should get. Here's the, you know, you want to have some lounge chairs. Here are the lounge chairs that you should have that are, you know, as weather resistant as you can get. All of that stuff. And yet, I still am like, I've got tabs open on my computer. Like there's like a certain patio furniture set that I was gonna get the other day, and then I was like, well, but like maybe I could get it for like a little bit less at Home Depot type thing. And then it all just kind of keeps resetting.
Yeah.
And I keep not buying anything.
Yeah. You have to start small, like get one thing. And what'll happen is I had a patio at my last place and it took me a while too. It took me a while to make a decision and pull the trigger on something. Once, it's hard to really know how wonderful it can be until you get a few things out there. It'll change the entire thing immensely. Like even this patio is not very well furnished. In fact, the landlord had a bunch of really cool stuff, like a cool lounge that was really bohemian and like really neat. It looked way better before I moved in here. And I would love to invest in making it look like it was. It is an investment. And it's a lot of furniture you're going to have to move when you move. It is beyond a financial investment.
That's what trips me up too, because I've got some of my plants have done better than others, but I have several large potted plants, and they're very, I care about them. I do my absolute best to make sure that they're happy, and it's a whole thing. They're heavy, they're unwieldy for any movers or myself. You can't just throw them in the back of your car. It doesn't work that way. And so that's what I think about patio furniture, especially because again, we're renters. Everything's temporary.
Yeah.
I'm not buying the apartment I'm living in now. I don't know how long I'll live there, but won't be forever.
And I'm telling you.
And so it's like, oh man. So I'm already thinking of it's almost like a prenup before you get divorced, where I'm like, so how am I gonna get rid of this stuff when I move?
You just have to sell
it.
it.
And I haven't even bought it yet.
I know, it's funny. And also one of the mistakes I made is you need to seal it properly. If you buy wood, the chairs we're sitting on right now were not sealed properly, and you can kind of tell they've lost the coating. I had a picnic table that we didn't coat. Within 6 months, it basically rotted because it was like poor lumber. It was a cheap table.
Yeah,
you got to coat that before the winter because it will be completely ruined and a waste of money.
Yeah,
and those are things that I don't know. I'm pretty good with plants, but this stuff gets baked in the sun. It gets we have quite a bit of storms here. This is different than buying furniture for the house. It's a bigger commitment.
Exactly. It's like a lot of things.
Yeah.
You don't just buy it and forget it.
No.
You have to, keep it up.
Yeah.
I even have my living room rug because I got a dog. My dog goes outside, plays in the mud. It's like my living room rug is getting to the point where, you vacuum it and you go okay, well, it's less dirty than it was before I vacuumed, but it needs a deep clean.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything like that. So now I got to have somebody with a power washer come in and deep clean my rug, or I'm just going to keep thinking about how it's kind of still dirty.
Well, that's the thing is you make your home more comfortable with pillows and rugs, and then it just makes it more complicated because it really does make a difference. A rug really pulls the room together.
But again, everything.
It's a lot more effort. Well, speaking of some effort, I'm going to let you guys know what we're going to do with our bonus topic today. We are going to switch gears a little bit from the games we've been playing. We're going to talk about astrology.
Oh,
but
astrology.
Don't fear those of you who do not believe in it. It's a complicated subject. We know that we're all very divided on this. So we're going to kind of talk about both sides of it. So it should be an interesting conversation. So stay tuned for that in a little bit.
Absolutely. Astrology. Oh, it's one of my favorite topics. And it's not really because I like it. But we'll get into it later.
We will.
Hopefully the truck won't be backing up while we do that, but
it'll be
hard to say.
Yeah, it's so I was going to talk a little bit about how much, last couple episodes we talked about how much we love future tech, robots.
Sure.
What cool technology is going to be coming out, make our lives easier. Man, I find it to be equally as irksome. I have just had one thing fail on me after the next. I know that it improves our lives, but I really think that as much as it improves our lives, it can be equally as irritating. I sometimes miss the early internet days. Nowadays, I just feel like you're getting pummeled with pop-ups and ads, and it's just driving me crazy. I have this lock phone issue that you mentioned on the top of the show, where my phone won't lock, and I'll go on a run, and I'll be texting people as I'm running. The emergency lock went on, and I couldn't even use my phone for 5 minutes. Little things where you're I think Louis C.K. did a bit on this, where it's we bitch about something that is so wonderful and convenient, but it also there's always downsides.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm like locked out of this program, like on my television. I can never remember my passwords. I keep looking on Amazon for a small printer because I keep thinking I keep needing to print random stuff, but I just can't pull the trigger. Everyone's like, don't buy a printer. But then I need to print stuff, and now I have to go to the UPS store again. And it's like, it's just this thing.
Way less fun.
No. So anyway, it's just sort of funny how I just been thinking about this a lot lately, how wonderful technology has made our lives, but I find it to be the one thing that consistently irritates me throughout the day, which I think is pretty funny.
Yeah, the butt dialing 911 thing, like I have an iPhone. Heather has an iPhone as well. So I can't totally say how the experience is on Android, but I assume it's somewhat similar. And you get to that point sometimes where it's like emergency call. Oh, no, bail out, which is, that's okay. Sure. That happens every once in a while. So I was walking, my phone was in it wasn't a purse. It was a fanny pack, but which I kind of wear across my body sometimes, if I have my dog, and which I did. And, sometimes you'll be listening to a podcast and like I can hear like the volume go down or up because like something is hitting my phone within wherever the, whatever the apparatus is. So it's like, okay, that's fine. But I'm crossing the street and there are like a bunch of cars like waiting for me. And I hear like, woo, woo, woo. And I was like, that's a weird cop car sound. Like, what was that? And I'm looking like, is it coming towards me? Like, what was that? It was my phone calling 911.
Oh my God.
And I just like didn't realize what that sound was. I've never heard it before because I never got that far. I literally, I triggered on the emergency call and then I made the call. So and I'm kind of looking at my phone like, and it's in the sun, so I'm sort of like, what's happening? And then I'm like, oh my God, I've been on the phone with 911 for 45 seconds.
Oh boy.
So
were they saying something to you?
I don't know. I stopped the call and I was prepared if someone called me back to be like, ma'am, are you having an emergency? To be like, I am so sorry. And I'm not. Because of course they can like, they kind of know what's, they can sort of, there's geolocation stuff going on. I'm sure
this happens a lot. And the funny thing is.
And no one called me back. And so I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I hope I didn't like
derail something.
Yeah, I just hope somebody figured it was an accident, because they wouldn't have heard me talking.
See, I'm wondering about this because, I just got an iPhone X about,
a 10.
4 months, 10, yeah. And I've noticed that it doesn't lock. Like I can't lock the screen properly because every time I barely touch it, it will open up and do some random thing. And I remember my last phone, I was able to lock and go on a run and put it on my arm and it was no problem. But my flashlight's always coming on.
Mine too.
Have you read anything about that?
I mean, the only thing that you'd be able to, you'd have control of is setting your auto lock.
Yeah, that's what I read about.
And
which is kind of weird.
But my auto lock is like, I think I've got it at 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm constantly either putting in my password or using Face ID because it's auto locking super quick. And yet my flashlight is on constantly, all the time, which is battery draining. And half the time it's in a purse or a bag. And so I don't even realize. And then the 911 thing, I was like, this is like, this is a hazard.
Well, I'm guessing that other people are having this problem. I'm sure they're getting calls like more often than just from you. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
Oh, technology.
I'm just happy it wasn't an emergency, but I hate to waste anybody's time with stuff like that. But yeah, if you hear a weird siren noise and it seems to maybe be coming from your satchel, double check that you didn't just call 911.
Have a satchel.
Yes. Or whatever.
Your tote bag, your man wallet.
Yeah, a Merce. Whatever
Merce.
You put your iPhone in. Hey, so we mentioned there's a little bit of an animal theme status to the show. And I'm starting off with it's kind of a sad story, really. It comes from The Verge, and it's about this robot that is sort of a dog, but sort of it's almost like, what is it really? But I think designed to look more like a little dog than anything else, called Jibo. That is, the company has been sold, and Jibo sent out a notice recently to customers that the servers are shutting down because servers take money to keep going, and so I'm paraphrasing, of course, but the message to Jibo owners was, hey, this is happening, we're really sorry in advance, but your connection to your Jibo is going to be limited afterwards. Doesn't mean like they just won't turn on anymore. But it's a smart device.
Well, that's a bummer for the people who bought it.
Exactly. So yeah. So this was and a very interesting article from Jibo owners. Now, I should say, if you're like, I don't even know what Jibo is. You remember Aibo? That was Sony's robot dog, and that goes back a long way, where people are like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have these like robot pets and blah blah blah. It hasn't really progressed as much from that first Aibo that I would have expected today. And Jibo was you would compare it to Amazon's assistant or Google's assistant. I won't say their names because I don't want to trigger your own devices at home. But the idea was that it could, it had facial recognition. So maybe it wasn't like, okay, well, like Amazon's assistant can like answer so many things. Jibo was a little bit more limited, but if you walked into a room and it was in the corner and it recognized that it was you, like maybe there would be like a heart on its kind of facial monitor.
Aww.
Or it would say something like, I have a, or whatever. And The Verge, they interviewed some folks who had them over time. This was often marketed towards kids because it was supposed to be really friendly, something that was a little, that had that it looked like something that was real rather than just some device in a corner that looked like a speaker that could talk to you. Also marketed towards elderly, and the reason being that often elderly people are lonely.
Yeah.
You might be,
and maybe they can't handle a real animal.
When things are slowing down a little bit for you, and you might, spend a lot of time by yourself, and it's sort of a companion thing, and and these were also, it started out as an Indiegogo campaign that did raise a lot of money a few years ago. Didn't sell that well. In fact, actually got some like not that great reviews from people who would be reviewing other smart devices. But for $800, give or take, it was something that you were investing in. If you like it, you like it.
Sure.
Right? And folks saying, I'm really bummed. Like I have to like explain to my kids why the servers are going offline now.
Wow.
Like it's a toy that you think like, I don't know, as long as the batteries are working, it just works until you don't care anymore. But this is technology that's removing itself from your life, even if it's brought you a lot of joy.
Do they get some kind of rebate or something? I mean, I feel like if you just bought it, like that's really screwed.
No.
Oh, what a bummer.
It's a bummer. And this would be, there are social networks and a variety of platforms and services that things change, companies get bought, servers go offline. This is a part of life, but in this particular sense, there were folks of a variety of ages and a variety of like socioeconomic and personal lifestyles and the whole thing just being like, yeah, we're like really sad. Like this felt like a pet, even though I'm not under any illusion that it was.
Sure.
It was part of my life, and it makes me sad.
Well, yeah, and these little bots they emulate warmth and God, it's like we're totally like becoming Black Mirror. It's so funny that series. I
don't even watch it because it's too upsetting. But every once in a while, someone's like, "Oh my God, Sarah, you have to watch Black Mirror season 3, episode 4," and I'm like, "Nope."
I know. I'm surprised.
I'm already horrified by real life.
I know that is true. Yeah. Well, it is there's a lot of similarities. I mean, there's a lot of these dystopian like shows that are more and more starting to emulate like real life, which is pretty scary. Woo!
Yeah.
Got some
little muffler action. Yeah. Somebody wanted some attention on the corner just now. Yeah. Look at me.
Definitely my hood.
I got a loud car. Yeah. Well, mine too.
And something else maybe.
Lack of.
So there's a lot of really wacky health things out there. I mean, more and more. Like there's, we've talked about some of this stuff, but like people eating their own placentas and oxygen shots is like a new thing. Vampire facials. Right. I don't know if you know about that, but that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Leeches. People use leeches to.
Well, that actually is like super helpful.
Kind of makes sense, actually.
In certain medical scenarios.
Like blood clots to prevent blood clots and that kind of thing, and plastic surgery and like that sort of stuff. But I am so fascinated by this, and I know this isn't totally new. I don't know if I doubt everybody knows about this, but I think some of you probably do. This is bee venom therapy, or BVP, or apitherapy. I would assume it's api because apiary.
Okay.
This is literally stinging yourself with live bees to treat a lot of diseases such as like some autoimmune stuff, like particularly Lyme disease. That's the one that I've read most about. But like rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune, and then you've got MS. I don't know much about how it's helped people with MS, but I have read a bunch of accounts. I read a fascinating story by a woman. This was on the New York Times. It was actually a wedding announcement, but it was one of those longer versions where they kind of get into like how these people met. And so she had this crazy story about finding out she had Lyme disease. And she, Lyme disease is extremely debilitating. You can't really...
Yeah, and very not well understood as far as treatment goes.
Definitely not. And your whole life is turned upside down. You can't do things. You have no energy. You sleep all the time. I mean, it's painful. Yeah. And so these treatments, these medical treatments that she was doing for years weren't doing much, and they were very invasive and painful. And she was, I went down her Instagram, and just like she's in the hospital, and just like she's got these IVs, and her story was very interesting. So the first time that this became a thing was there was this girl, her name was Ellie Lobel. She had chronic Lyme for like 15 years, and she was at the point of like, I'm going to stop these treatments because they're so, and this is a different woman from the article I was just referring to. So this story is back in 2011. She wanted to just die peacefully and stop treatment. 3 days later, she goes for a walk and gets stung by a swarm of honeybees and starts to see her main symptoms go away. And so she started to really wonder about this. So then that's kind of what
like it was rebooting her immune system.
It was like rebooting her immune system. So basically what you do is you take live bees. So you've got your own little box of bees at your house or whatever. You have to pull them out, sting one by one along the sides of your spine, because the venom like travels along the spinal nerve, and that's where all of the good stuff.
This is not
which
fun.
They call melatonin. So this is the venom has anti-inflammatory properties called melatonin. Anyway, super fascinating. I loved reading these stories, and apparently there are records of this type of therapy that go all the way back to ancient Egypt. I mean, those Egyptians, they're involved in everything. But there's a lot of different components other than anti-inflammatory. There's like pain relieving stuff. Super fascinating, but you can join these programs where bees are mailed to you weekly from like this hive in California for like $15, like a series. And I just found it to be the most fascinating thing in the world. I don't know if I could. I put myself in her shoes, and I'm like, how would I do that? Like, I would do. Bee stings hurt way more than they did when you were a kid. I don't know if you've ever gotten one when you're an adult, but they're pretty painful.
I can't remember the last time.
Inflicting that on yourself. Yeah. How do you feel about this? Well, I mean, I would do it if I was very sick and it did work, of course.
Yeah, right. Yeah. My first thought is like, would someone think of the bees, right? Because they die.
Yeah.
They sting you and they die. That's how it works with bees.
And we have a shortage of bees.
Right. I know. We want more bees, not fewer bees. However, I know two people that I can think of offhand. In fact, I probably know more if I did some more research. Two people who have Lyme disease.
Really?
Yeah, both women. And both of them have been very frustrated by the lack of options.
Yeah.
And it in one in particular, and I won't name names, but it's like her Facebook account is all about Lyme disease because she can't really not think about it.
Of course.
There's
rules
like
your life.
There's medical trials that are just like bunk and certain insurance laws that are passed that like hurt people that are in her situation, and people like you and me who were like, we have a rough understanding of how shitty it is, but we don't really know what you're going through, and it is extremely consuming and really sad.
Very sad.
So and also you get bitten by a tick, you get Lyme disease. It's like
I'm telling you.
Think of like I run around in the woods all the time. It's like I hope that doesn't happen, but I mean, I'm super sympathetic to people who are in bad physical shape, and I think that if I had this, maybe I would think about it as well. But
you would toughen up probably.
In a perfect world, I want to save the bees.
Exactly. That's another good point. Yeah, you're killing bees. But when I go, I hike a lot too, and I was on a hike earlier this week that had a lot of overgrown grass, and I'm very I'm paranoid of ticks because of this whole thing and what I know about it. And so I'm always wiping my legs. I like want to.
Well, and people say like, oh, you have to wear like long sleeves and long pants. It's like, it's 95 degrees.
Yeah, there's no way.
I mean, it gets complicated.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to diagnose. You know, sometimes you have to go real deep to even know that's what you have. It's very interesting disease. Anyway, that's my slightly animal insect story for you today.
Well, it's definitely animal based. So we got a robot dog who's dying, and some bees that are dying as well for the greater human good. Life is tough, man.
It really is.
You know, just when you think we've got it all figured out, then you're faced with another issue,
another challenge.
Hey, you know what isn't an issue? Being a patron. You hear that?
It's super easy.
It is easy as pie. In fact, it's easier than pie because baking a pie is not really...
That's pretty hard, actually.
You got to get the crust right. Patreon.com/have such a good day is what we're talking about. If you're new around these parts, or if you've been considering becoming a patron, now's the time, everybody. Heather and I are almost to 50 episodes, and we need your support. You can be a patron for as little as $1 per month.
$1.
$1 every 30 days of your life, sometimes 31. Sometimes 28 leap year. No, that would be 29 on a leap year. 28 the rest of the time in
pennies
February.
I just throw them away now.
Pennies are pennies. So yes, we'd love to have you become part of our team, and you get rewards as a result. It's not just us being like, hey, give us some money. It's we want to offer more incentives on top of the
and
show.
It's ad-free content. I mean, we're not everything we talk about, even if we're talking about a robot, it's not promoted. Like, this is stuff that we're interested in. If we're talking about a product, it is not a sponsorship. You know, we do not have ads.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, if that wasn't clear, I hope it is now. Heather and I, that would never be something we would do without disclosing it. But we don't want to do it either. Patreon, has been such a great resource for artists that we follow. Sometimes they're musicians or creative folks or sculptors, or Patreon has got a lot of really interesting people making a lot of great content. And Heather and I are we value the community, and we're honored to be part of it, and we hope more of you will join us there so we can make some of our dreams for the show a reality.
Exactly. We want to grow and evolve, and we do. We have goals beyond. We've been doing this for a year. Let's do 2 shows a week.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Help us get there.
I'm begging you
your help.
guys. Yeah, we just hey, it takes time. It takes time and resources, and we want to do it, and we hope that enough of you want that too, and then we will.
Exactly.
Yay!
Speaking of subscribers, we've got a lot of new YouTube subscribers, and I just want to shout a few of those out.
All right.
We got Bo Clausen.
Hey, Bo.
Marvin Wade.
Hey, Marvin.
And Music in My Mind.
Ooh,
spelled all funky with some caps and some lowercase.
Quite an interesting intercapping going on there, Music in My Mind. Whenever I hear Marvin, I think of Starvin' Marvin.
Oh, yeah.
Garbage Pail Kid.
Yeah.
Anybody remember Garbage Pail Kids?
I love those.
Some of them
were so fun.
Some of them were too gross
for
me.
They were so gross.
I don't remember what Sarah was. I'm sure there was a Heather also. Most of the common names had one. I think mine was kind of lame. And then sometimes they were just like a little too gross.
Slay and Sarah.
Slaying?
Yeah.
What was I doing?
Let's see. You've also got an armpit one. Is that you? No, I would say it's It looks like Slay and Sarah.
But what does that mean? Like, because it usually
looks like you're stabbing Dracula.
Oh, well, that doesn't sound like a Garbage Pail Kid. That sounds more like a.
I wonder if that's like not. Slay and Sarah.
Huh. For anybody who's like, what are you talking about? So
they're so fun.
There were Cabbage Patch Kids, which I think was kind of just like at least the genesis of the name of Garbage Pail Kids. Garbage Pail Kids were trading cards, and you would like get them, I think, with certain toys, or you could buy them on their own in a package.
Pack.
It was a little bit more like baseball cards than anything, and they were these kids who just like had like weird gashes in their face, or like they were really like throwing up, or
like this one.
It was all really gross.
It was really gross,
and they were called Garbage Pail Kids.
Or it was like their Heather is double Heather, and it's like these two girls with like it's like a two-headed Hydra person with two heads.
Oh.
And then there's also Stormy Heather, which is stormy weather, but like the Garbage Pail Kids getting hit by a bolt of lightning. And
Interesting.
yeah. They were super fun. You should look them up. There's a bunch of them online. Like Depressing Donald, like.
Yeah. But again,
picture.
Starvin' Marvin.
Oh, there's Leather Heather too, and you're in a electric chair.
Oh, Leather Heather.
And I'm all in leather and chains.
Yeah,
and
it's not going to end well for you.
No.
It's funny. When I think of Starvin' Marvin, I'm like, was he starving? That seems like a strange thing for kids to be like, yeah cool.
It was pretty dark.
It was dark. It was, the Garbage Pail Kids are, when you think back on it, you're like, because they were, and I think it was probably just for our peer group. I'm not sure how many people too far ahead of us or behind us would have been interested. But they were a big deal.
They were a huge deal.
But it was dark.
Pop culture phenomenon, I would have to say.
Pop culture phenom. Yeah, it was. I think also because like a lot of I was going to say little boys, little girls too, but many little boys did trade baseball cards. I never did. I don't know why. I probably would have enjoyed it.
I think that's such a boy thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I like baseball.
Yeah, that's true.
And I like things that are, like I think I'd like the idea of being like, I've got something that's pretty valuable. Like, what do I get for it type thing, and you eat a lot of Cracker Jacks.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get stuff in there.
Oh, I love those Cracker Jacks. Oh, man, like little tattoos. And
Yeah, you get a baseball card every now and then. But okay, we've gone down memory lane long enough. This is actually, next story, talk about 180s. We do that a lot on this show. This was a article from a couple weeks ago now, and there's a lot of moving parts, so I'll do my best to summarize this. So Facebook, huge company, we all know what Facebook is. Facebook uses a lot of third-party companies to moderate content, and third-party companies to do all sorts of things. But content moderation is something that, as big as you think Facebook is, which it is, huge campus in Northern California, and many satellite offices across the world, still has to employ third-party companies to do a lot of their dirty work, so to speak.
Makes sense.
When you think of content moderation, you got to think of the bad stuff, right? Stuff that is inappropriate, stuff that is illegal. Somebody posts a photo of something that's questionable, and kids shouldn't see that type of thing.
Yep.
And there are terms of service that Facebook has, and yet there are third-party companies that carry out a lot of this moderation that aren't actually Facebook, and so that always introduces a set of problems because who's watching the watchers, right? So a particular company called Cognizant, it's based in Tampa, Florida, was the subject of a bit of an investigative report. Casey Newton, who writes for The Verge, is just he does what he does very well, and this is one of his stories. And he went down there to this office where about 800 people work. So they're not Facebook employees, but they're employees of Cognizant, which is looking at Facebook content, often without the employees of Cognizant even knowing what social network it's on. There's some CMS in the background where you might just be like, yes, no, blah, blah, blah. And many reports of people not being able to handle all of the awful stuff that they have to see so that you and I don't end up seeing it, right? And, Facebook, you still see weird stuff on Facebook every once in a while, but a lot of this is because it's shielded from us, and Facebook is like, yeah, we're not the kind of place where that sort of hate speech should be allowed. Well, somebody had to look at it and be like, oh no, we have to get rid of this before the public sees this on their news feeds. And this particular, I mentioned the company Cognizant, which is one of many, lots of issues. And some guy had a heart attack at his desk, although the company says, well, it probably had nothing to do with the fact that he was working here, although apparently he had a lot of anxiety about working there. Just very unsanitary conditions, people working, long hours that should not be legal in any workforce, sexual harassment in the workplace. But one of the things that was mentioned more than once was objectionable content towards animals.
What does that mean?
Meaning like videos of an animal being hurt by a human kind of thing. And the sort of thing where it's like the stuff gets viral in its own horrible way. And there was a particular, I won't even describe it because, we're already just grossed out, but a guy who had actually a history of like depression, which would be the sort of thing that you would really want to vet before you hire them for a job like this. But he wasn't. Or maybe he thought he could handle it and he couldn't. There was a video that he had seen once and he was like, oh my God, like I'm really upset by this. And he's like, and then I just kept seeing it. Like, because it would crop up in other, someone else's timeline in a different region. Like, you don't just say like, this Facebook doesn't, or this video doesn't belong on Facebook anymore, and it's just gone forever.
Sure.
Like, it's a whack-a-mole type thing. And was like, he was like, I mean, it was like, it gets really dark really fast. And so I think that I brought this up because I was like, man, I mean, we need human content moderators because it can't all be algorithmic.
Sure.
But clearly people are suffering because of it. And what do we do about that? And how does a third-party company that, sure, this particular company got a lot of bad press and maybe things will get better there, but it was already bad before it gets better. It's like there's still suffering happening, and it's a real, I don't know, it's a head scratcher.
It's a dilemma because, there's, you can only, humans are imperfect and there's no way you're going to be able to make it a perfect system.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe they can make a very specific, I don't know, I feel like at some point in the nearest future, we can have some kind of robot that is programmed specifically to catch everything.
Well, I mean, we're trying.
Yeah, sure.
That AI, machine learning, a lot of this is specifically designed to solve this problem.
Yeah.
But we're so far away from it because there's either false positives or things that aren't getting catched or people gaming the system once they understand, what the AI is designed to do. And then you've got folks who are like, well, how much should Facebook be determining what is objectionable to me?
No, that's true. You're right.
And
there's so many nuances because it's like, for one person, it might not be a big deal, but for another one, it's like the most horrifying thing.
Exactly.
So that is really tough.
It's a tough one. Yeah, I know.
Should be thinking about this kind of stuff more in my downtime.
Yeah, I know how unbusy you are, Heather. You just sort of sit around, waiting to be depressed.
around, and
But real talk, if anybody out there is watching or listening and saying, I have some experience with this, either directly or perhaps somebody who's worked in this capacity, I would be fascinated to hear more about what people think, because I know that there are probably a lot of opinions about it. hi@havesuchagoodday.com would be a great way to let us know. That's our email address.
Email us early and often, please. Well, I have a little lighter topic here.
Thank goodness.
We haven't talked about sex in a while, so I thought that I would talk about something more amusing.
Okay.
In particular, peculiar mating rituals in the animal kingdom.
Oh.
We probably, most of us know that, like, perfume turn big cats on, and that, like, forest rangers, they use the scent to lure tigers out of the wild. I mean, this has been kind of a known thing, but I wanted to tell you about some ones that I thought were a little bit more obscure and interesting.
Okay.
Did you know that barnacles have adaptable penises?
I don't know what that means.
So they can stretch.
I know
up
what detachable penises are.
There's a song about it.
Yeah.
They can actually stretch up to like 8 times the length of their body, and they can adjust their shape to better fit their environment. So we're talking about barnacles here. You wouldn't ever think that barnacles have sex, but
well, they gotta reproduce some way.
That's true,
right?
Huh. And apparently, ducks they defend themselves with their vaginas. Okay. So this is a really interesting thing.
Ducks.
Yes.
Okay.
So they basically defend off unwelcome mating attempts. They have evolved their vages so that they twist in the opposite direction so that the male, basically they can't fit inside
Oh,
of them.
if they're like, I'm not into you.
So they're sort of
they're
like,
like, I'm gonna make it impossible for you
it's
to
like
have
a
sex
chastity
with me.
belt. Think of it as like a chastity belt
Right.
type of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. I have never gone down this rabbit hole before of how I know some of these things, but boy, I mean, this is fascinating. Yeah, and apparently, sharks have very versatile birthing methods. Apparently,
Okay.
and so basically, they'll lay eggs, just even though they're not like near like a male shark in like many years, and so basically they can have sex, and then many years later they have babies, and they can apparently reproduce both sexually and asexually. I don't know if this is all sharks.
What? Hold everything. So you're saying 2 sharks have sex, and the mom shark can just be like,
Later.
10 years later, maybe you'll have some
I don't know about
little
10
shark babies.
I don't know about 10, but
Well, you said like many years later.
many years. Yeah. So
Okay,
they
so-
claim 3 years later.
Even 3 months.
I know,
For
it's
like,
insane.
just to be like, let's just put this on hold for a while. That's insanity.
You know,
Okay.
if all else fails in your life, honestly, look at how animals live and how they do things, and it's just a real chuckle. I get a real chuckle out of it.
Yeah.
Always improves my day.
There are also certain species where it's like a male and a female have sex and the female eats the male.
Oh yeah, no, that is. Oh, I think it's a. Is it the whatever that insect, the praying mantis?
I think
It
so.
eats their head off.
I think it's the praying mantis, but I think it's like you've heard there's a refrain that happens in certain species where it's like, you've done your duty, we don't need you anymore, and you think like, well, but then they have babies and then there's more males and then it all happens again.
It's very kinky, the whole thing. You know, it's interesting that like you would think that, I mean, humans have come up with all these wild and kinky things to do to each other, but it's in the animal kingdom. I mean, there's like the weirdest stuff that's like part of like the DNA of these creatures.
Yeah, I was sitting in my bare yard the other day, looking up at, there's this really big tree that's kind of coming over from my neighbor's yard, and lots of birds are just in that tree. It's actually kind of great because in the morning I just hear lots of little sing-song birdies that are all in this tree, but you know, there'll be little scuffles up there, you know, and it's usually like a mating thing, you know, where it's like, and there's wings flapping, and it either kind of works out and like lasts for a while or it doesn't, and one bird flies off, and you know, and I just think like, what are they thinking?
Oh, I know.
Because I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's how your species will proliferate. But what are you thinking? Are you thinking anything? I don't know.
I know. Well, we'll never know. But it's funny, we were talking about deep sea creatures, and apparently deep sea creatures have like the kinkiest sex. Yeah, like apparently.
Oh, that was on our previous episode if you missed it. Yeah. Deep sea creatures, weird bunch.
Yeah, apparently lobsters like consider like urine like a love potion. And all kinds of things.
So lobsters like pee on their like the person that they're trying to impress.
Yeah,
which is probably another lobster.
You know what I'm fascinated with? I love seahorses. I find them so fascinating.
Yeah, I
They're
do
so
too.
cool. Anyway, they
are cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so they can be pregnant too.
Seahorses?
Yeah. They
I
give birth to
actually,
baby seahorses.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned this, and I might be totally talking out of my ass right now, but I believe that seahorses have babies without mating.
Well, that might be true, but the males are the ones that get pregnant.
Oh, maybe so. That
might be what it is.
That's what I'm thinking is unusual.
Yeah, they have a pouch.
Huh. Well, you know what? Between seahorses and that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger where he has a baby as a man. I don't remember what it's called. Not Kindergarten Cop, it's that other one. But it's something where he's pregnant.
What was that?
We're on to something.
Yeah, we are.
You know? More males should have babies.
I totally
I don't
agree.
want to carry a baby.
No.
But I don't dislike the idea of having a baby. So,
No.
Hey, men out there, you want to get together with me and carry my child? Call me or email us at
Well, we're not going to give you her phone number, but yes, you can email us. Please do.
If you want this bad enough, you'll find me. You know how to DM. DMs are open on Twitter. All right. So well, gosh. I mean, we're kind of at the end of our show.
We're coming to a screeching halt, I think, here.
I love that term.
Oh, I know, me too.
The screeching halt, if it's a car, you're like, okay, I get it. But like, I imagine like a human like running.
Yeah.
And then, rah.
Well, I mean, screeching is such an onomatopoeia, you know. Well,
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite things in the world is an onomatopoeia or a pun. But thank you for lending us your ears. We
Yes.
really appreciate it.
Yes,
And
we
your
do.
eyeballs, if you can see us back here in the shadows, we're trying to stay away from the sun. We're outside on my patio, and it's real hot.
We're a couple vampire ladies.
Yes, we are.
So anytime we're in the sun, we're like, oh my God,
It
I need more
burns, it
sunscreen. Let's do this in the dark next time. But, a little vitamin D never hurt anybody.
No,
Wear
definitely not.
sunscreen, though.
Definitely.
Just
50 SPF or more.
Just
so, you
do
know what?
it.
The other day, I actually was getting sunblock, and there was one that was 100 plus. I don't even know if that's possible.
Yeah, you hear all sorts of different takes on that whole thing. There will be people who, understand how sunblock is made better than me that are like, anything above 50 is just like marketing.
Yeah, that's what I think.
But you also are like, well, okay, well, the people who made the 100 plus, like, just explain to me, like, is there more zinc in there? Like,
There's got to be something.
titanium dioxide? Like, what?
They wouldn't be able to get away with
What do
putting
you
that on
have
the
more
shelf.
of? Well, marketing can be a little bit weird. We
Yeah,
know
that's
that from
true.
food products as
True
well.
dat, Sarah Lane.
Yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed our
Slightly animal-themed show.
our slightly animal themed show. Yeah, it was more animals, and we were somewhat all over the place. I was gonna say it's a hodgepodge,
usual.
and then I immediately was like, hodgepodge sounds like hedgehog, which is a very cute animal.
Oh, yeah. I love a hedgehog.
Ugh.
I also like a hodgepodge. Mm-hmm. I like
A hodgepodge of hedgehogs would be kind of heaven.
Say
I know.
that 10 times fast.
I just love how circular
They're
they
so
are.
cute. Yeah, they remind me of like narwhals.
Yeah, actually,
They kind of have like they're just so cute. I mean, they're kind of ugly, but they're kind of cute at the
they're
same time.
cute. Yes,
They look cuddly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they'd be cuddly though. A hodge. Where do those even
They're
exist?
spiky. I don't know. I don't know.
Hedgehogs.
I don't know if we have a lot of hedgehogs in California.
Maybe we'll find one on one of our hikes one day.
I don't even know if I would know
Like,
what
Sarah,
one looked
I saw a hedgehog.
like. Outside of Sonic the Hedgehog, I'm like, what's a hedgehog even? I just like, how cute you are. You can roll fast down hills.
They're so cute. They are prickly.
Yeah.
But it looks like they're, Google mentions that they are usually found in Europe and Asia and Africa and New Zealand. So that's probably why we don't see them.
All right. Well, if you have a pet hedgehog or one that hangs out in your yard, please send a photo to us
Would
at
they
hi
make
at
a
have
good
such day-
pet is my
such a good
question.
day.com. I don't know.
I think they're nocturnal.
I think they're mostly wild.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap up the show, but $5 patrons, stick around. Bonus topic is coming up next. We're talking astrology. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Where do you stand? For everybody else, thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you next week. Until then, I'm Sarah.
I'm Heather.
And have such a good day.
Bye-bye.